Good afternoon. It's 5:30. We will open the Cowra Shire Council Public Forum. In accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993, Cowra Council is live streaming this public forum, and the recording will also be uploaded to Council's website. By speaking at this forum, you agree to being live streamed and recorded and having that recording published in the public domain. Please ensure that when you speak at public forums, you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Cowra Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this meeting. We acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we gather, the Wiradjuri people, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I have an apology from Councillor Tony Horton that we will note. Councillors and staff, please indicate in relation to any interest you need to declare in relation to item 6.2, the Goolagong Village request for consideration of a splash pad, and whether that interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary, and what is the nature of that interest. All right, thank you. There is one member of the public who has registered with the General Manager's office to speak on an item on the agenda. Mr. Charlie Niven, who will speak in favour of item 6.2, the Goolagong Village request for consideration of a splash pad. I will call the speaker by name and ask that you introduce yourself and allow time for any councillor or member of staff, if they have declared an interest in the item, to manage that conflict, which may include them leaving the room for your presentation. Each speaker will have a maximum of 5 minutes. So I'd call on Charlie Niven.
It'll put on my good face, I reckon, just thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Goolagong people, which we've made application to put in a splash park. We're here to represent the Goolagong people and the proposal of a splash park. The water rings, which you have a diagram of how it's built. I saw this splash park in parks, and it was only just a little part of the water park. And it is on a 6 by 6 metre concrete slab. Water is drawn from an underground tank. The water is recycled and tested each day. The implementation of the splash park will add to this magnificent, well-kept park. I'd just like to thank Councillor Kiss, who came down and had to talk to us here a couple of weeks ago. Also to Brian and Jill for their efforts. Also to Dirk and Rod and his staff for putting this together, because I think it will be a great asset to the community of Goolagong and the Cowra Council. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Has anybody got any questions of Charlie? Okay, thank you very much, Charlie.
Right.
With that, I'll declare this meeting closed, or this forum closed, and we'll reconvene in 10 minutes at 4:45. Good afternoon. It is 5:45. I'd like to open the General Committee meeting of the Cowra Shire Council of Monday, the 9th of March 2026. In accordance with the Local Government Act, Cowra Council is recording this meeting and will upload the recording to Council's website. By speaking at this meeting, you agree to being recorded and having that recording published in the public domain. Please ensure that when you speak at Council's meetings, you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Cowra Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this meeting. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, the Wiradjuri people, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. I have apologies from Councillor Tony Horton, and I was also advised that Councillor Speechley may not be here tonight, so I'll put her down as an apology at this point in time. Someone like to move that those apologies be accepted? Councillor Kiss. Councillor Fagan, thank you. Councillor Kiss.
Not needed, thank you.
Councillor Fagan. Anyone wish to comment? Councillor Kiss, write a reply. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. 1.4, disclosures of interest. Councillors and staff, please indicate in relation to any interest you need to declare. A, what item or report you are declaring an interest in. B, whether the interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary. And C, what is the nature of this business. Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to declare an interest in item 6.1, the Council Buildings Renewal and Upgrade Program. Cowra Information Enabled Centre utilises the council-owned building at 15 Vaux Street, which is mentioned in the report, and I'm Chair of SYNC. It's a minor non-pecuniary interest, but I will remain in the chamber. Thank you.
Anybody else? I think, okay. We have no presentations. I'll now take a motion to confirm the minutes of the General Committee meeting held on the 9th of February 2026. These minutes will be subject to a correction to item 5.1 to record that Councillor Watt left the chamber during the consideration of this item and did not vote on the item. Can I have someone to accept that, please? Councillor Kiss. Councillor Downing. Thank you, Councillor Kiss.
Not needed, thank you.
Councillor Downing. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Kiss, write a reply. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Item 3.1, a mayoral minute to the Minister of Local Government and others about our joint organisation and the future of it. I'll move that. Councillor Watt seconds that. Thank you. This mayoral minute reflects the fact that the government is looking to reorganise JOs and also have a look at the viability of some of them. Our JO is very, very successful. We get a return of around about, I think, 7.8 at the moment. Every dollar we invest, we save $7.8. So it's very good. JO, it's run very well. We're very happy with it. The biggest change will probably be, in my opinion, will be other LGAs wanting to come into our JO. That'll be the most likely scenario, I would think. And more the merrier, I suppose. It gives us more leverage and that. But that's what this is all about, just stating our support for our status quo at the moment. Councillor Watt?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Absolutely agree. I think we consistently see as councillors that being part of the joint organisation saves us money and saves us time as well. We don't need the expertise for negotiating the large contracts and the time to do it. So I think even though we look at that $7.8 in terms of savings on a contract, there's probably a lot more that we save where we might need to employ consultants or employ people to do work or just, lost work in other things that our staff are better focused on. I think there's also the real benefit in that operational efficiency, learning opportunities for our staff to be able to connect with other people and learn from what they've done in the past, as well as that strategic planning and knowledge building when we look at things like, our combined efforts to look at FOGO or look at energy efficiency that the JO has developed reports on that we can take from there and implement, as well, of course, as the advocacy as a group. And I think Mr Mayor's completely right that this investigation, I don't think, is looking at the Central West JO. It's looking at others that have become much more, have fallen apart, and we probably will have quite a few people going, I want to be part of that. And if they live roughly in the Central West, maybe, but we'll see. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to comment? Councillor Fagan.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment that in the JO's joint organisation's reply to the Minister, they're also requesting that there be some changes to the auditing and ARIC reporting and the amazing amount of money that we pay for as a JO that pays for that, although all the councils involved in the JO already pay for that service themselves. So it seems a bit of double dipping, and it is one of the requests that the JO, the letter back to the Minister will ask that the requirements be reduced to reflect their lower risk profile, and also requesting that the joint organisation review recommendation of fund capacity building and provide ongoing investment in JOs, noting that state agencies benefit from JO collaboration and coordination, yet do not contribute financially. And that's exactly right. The state government takes advantage of our JO quite a lot, speaks to them as a group, and actually does some they do some very good advocacy through the JO, and yet they don't contribute anything to it. And I think that's a very good point, that the councils that are involved, although we're all cash strapped, we contribute to this, and that government just uses it as a communication tool and allows them to do the job of the government. So I think it's very important that we highlight the fact that we're going to actually ask for some help rather than say we're all right, Jag, and we can go on our own. I do think it's important that we point out the things that are not working as well as the things that are. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Wright.
Thank you. It's interesting to read that not all JOs are operating, or some are in a hiatus or something. It'd be interesting to know more information about that before I'd even consider our JO taking on extra members, because I feel that you could be taking, if they're not working in their own JO now, or prepared to make it work, to bring them into ours, it could be a splinter effect here that would dilute the effect that we're getting and could place more work on our members to maintain the return for our council. I've always been concerned of this JO concept, that they're sort of getting the mayors together, operating one thing, and because then they've got, instead of talking to 12 councils, they're talking to one body, and they can pick us off one by one. I'm a pessimist, but I just find that it should have been explained a bit more about why people weren't working. And then I'm interested when the Minister addresses our mayors who worship the mayor. I just wonder what it is. Probably just a typo, but it's I don't know if it's, you say that when you're a mayor, when you've got a king, everyone's a woman or something. Or anyway, it's just interesting. We have enough trouble looking after ourselves rather than creating another bureaucracy that we have created, but maintaining that. And I don't want them to increase that bureaucracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Downing.
The same ilk as Councillor Wright, and just thinking like this minister has come in, he's the new local government minister, and he's making lots of sweeping changes about codes of conduct for councillors and planning legislation, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that after he's finished fixing all the things that are wrong with local government that he can see, that he's involved in a city capacity for 30 years, that he might start addressing New South Wales Treasury, giving us a fair amount of money, perhaps helping us with the Red Fleet, the cemetery levies, the dam inspection fees, and his basic lack of substantial funding for our sewerage, our energy needs going forward if we're going to grow. So perhaps maybe we could suggest they're on his list next of things he could fix in the New South Wales government.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? I'll use the right of reply. I totally agree with councillors Fagan and Watt. It is a very good JO. The ARIC provisions are onerous. The JO at the moment is looking at having a shared ARIC with the Hunter region, but it'd be lovely if they scrapped that, because the old Centroc didn't have to have an ARIC. I can't see why the JO does. So with that, I think we've got a very good JO, and what comes of all of this, as Councillor Downing says, what the government are going to do, we'll wait and see. But we have a good JO, we're happy where we are, and that's the point we wanted to make. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Pass, thank you. 4.1, changes to the representative on the Country University Centre, the Cowra Regional Board. We will have Councillor Speechley will come off that. She's struggling to attend at those times, and Councillor Wright will be the new delegate to that. So would someone like to move that that's be accepted? Councillor Kiss. Councillor Watt, thank you. Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd just like to thank Councillor Speechley for her efforts and her contributions to the Country University Centre. I'm sure it was with a heavy heart that she's had to say that you know, she's finding difficulty getting to the meetings, but I'd like to wish Councillor Wright all the best and see where you can take the Country University Centre. And thank you for putting your hand up.
Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Councillor Kiss. Just really briefly, a big thanks to Councillor Wright. It's a big, important part that we do as council in supporting the CUC, and it's been a real game changer for so many people in the community to have the Country University Centre, I think, shown really clearly by the fact that they beat their target in their 3-year target in the first year. So yeah, really big thank you. It's quite a big thing to take on boards like these and committees, and Councillor Wright's already on a number of them, so thank you very much for stepping up.
Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor, before Councillor Kiss has a right of reply, I just agree with Councillor Watt that the Country University Study Centre down there is doing an excellent job. Even things that they now do to Year 12 students who are studying for their HSC, but they told me, I went down and had a visit not long ago, and the junior doctors that come here to do their time spend a lot of time in there actually completing their work and doing their university stuff. So there's a lot of unforeseen advantages that we're getting out of this, and they are doing an excellent job. Right, a reply, Councillor Kiss.
Before that, if you
Sorry, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the Mayor and General Manager for accepting my nomination, and hope that the fellow councillors support it. I don't know a lot about what they do, but I was on a management committee for a rural financial counselling service, which was operating on government funding and so forth, and we had 17 or 18 officers, 60 odd employees, and I think that's one of the major part down there, would make sure the money gets spent properly and the people get looked after well, and I'll be just there to ensure that the council doesn't become involved in anything that's not working right, and I look forward to what may happen. The youth of our town is our most important asset, and while it's necessary to have an education, this provides people getting an education or further their education without having to leave Cowra, and therefore we might be able to keep a few more of them, or they can update their education as they go, and I look forward to accepting the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Right of reply, Councillor Kiss.
Not needed, thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. 5.1, the Section 355 Committee Minutes of the Australian Chapter of the World Peace Bell Association. Councillor Downing. Councillor Watt. Councillor Downing.
Yep, we have minutes from the 14th of October 2025 and the 17th of February 2026. October's minutes are mainly a debrief about the Youth Peace Forum that was held in September. We had lots of feedback from participants and teachers, which was positive, which we'll carry forward with planning this year's as well. I'd just like to praise the guest speaker, Ruby. She's a Deputy Commissioner of Mental Health, Commission of New South Wales, and founder and CEO of Womankind. And just congratulate Councillor Watt for organising that for us on short notice. She was incredible. She spoke to the students at a really understandable and level that they understood, and she had great things to say from her experiences and her travels all over the world, which was incredible. And she's only a young woman herself. The next is that we participated in the Indonesian anniversary of the Australian Indonesian Association in November. We had a peace bell ringing ceremony. I was proud to let Deputy Chair Ian Brown, who has been on that committee for a long time, do a speech that he's done before for Indonesian visitors, and it was well received. We've also been planning, so in our next minutes in February, planning is underway for our 2026 Youth Peace Forum. We have a guest speaker, Lynn Strong. She's been confirmed. She's a former Cowra girl, and she now is manages Synergy Scope, which is about agriculture and green agriculture, that kind of stuff. And yeah, hopefully getting to know a bit more about her as we go on, and excited to have her come join us. Thanks to Doug Wright, who is a contact who is on our committee. She was unable to attend last year, and she's very excited to come this year. She said yes on the day we asked her, so hopefully that will be enjoyable for everyone. And we had a visit from the festival coordinator, and they're incorporating a festival bell ringing ceremony before the festival dinner, which everyone on the committee was happy to see, and we're excited to be part of that as well. And if there's any questions, go for it.
Thank you. Councillor Watt.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Downing, for your ongoing work as the chair, but a really good report of all the things we're doing. Just a few things I wanted to reflect on if people hadn't picked it up from the minutes. We had the majority of participants responding that the event was good or above, with 42 reporting excellent, and I think only one reporting anything below good, which is really powerful to have in the room. It's a really beautiful combination of the Youth Council and the World Peace Bell Association, and gives people some really good insight into how each other's community works. And I think we took a really great step that might seem like a small thing, but in looking at our catering and targeting it to the kids. And we had the fabulous Club Cowra make essentially, rip-offs of KFC burgers, and there was not a crumb left. All the kids loved it, and I think it's something that really matters to kids, that they're not getting old people food, but it really energised them for the afternoon. And we know kids need that boost of energy, but I think that the openness to listening to kids and what they're after really has a big impact. And we've also had a really good debrief with the UN about making sure that their workshop content and their facilitators do have the capacity to target the right age group, because they do often work with university kids or later high school kids, but the age group we have is from year 5 to year 8. So I think that was really useful, and the Youth Council being really proactive in, speaking up for themselves and speaking up for their community. And I think that sets a really good base from going forward. Also wanted to say I'm really excited about Lynn Strong. I think it'll be really powerful for the kids that come along to see someone from Cowra who's gone on to make a really positive impact in the community. And these days can be a really inspiring day for people to think bigger and think about how they can make an impact in the world. And I also think it's always good for our speakers to see the kind of ideas that our kids are coming up with, whether they're raps or what they are, but they tell it in their own way, and it's really entertaining. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, and I'd like to congratulate our two representatives, both Councillor Watt and Councillor Downing, on this committee. It's always full of just such good stuff happening. One of the things that I appreciate most about it is it's not just like an old person's committee. They're taking it to the youth, mixing it all over the community. So I see it's going to have a long road ahead, and it's very positive to see. Just one quick question. Page 39, it mentioned in the business without notice, which I actually thought was quite a lovely idea. The inquiry about the Peace Bell merchandise and whether there'd be anything available. And I thought, gee, someone's just sparked up with an idea. I wonder whether that might be being considered any further, because I think that was back from the October minutes. Thank you.
That wasn't discussed at our last meeting, so we'll definitely follow that up in the future meetings.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, thank Councillor.
When we first had started the Peace Bell, and we had a key ring with a pewter key Peace Bell on the end of it. You might have seen it, and used to sell them at the visitor centre. They were quite popular, so they were a good idea.
Sorry, there used to also be the paperweights, so the Japanese gardens as well, that aren't available anymore. But yeah, Emma had quite a few ideas she was looking into. But I also read these and went, oh, we forgot about checking in on that. We had a bit too much going on at this meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else write a reply? Councillor Downing. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed. Thank you. 5.2, the Cowra Shire Council Working Party minutes of the Australia Day Working Party. Councillor Kiss. I'll second that. Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I will just start before I forget, asking whether there's any chance that in the future we might be able to have minutes brought to meetings a little bit earlier. I understand this isn't a Section 355 committee, so it's not under the same responsibilities as far as providing the minutes, but I just thought that could actually be quite helpful when I saw them all come out at one time. Having said that, I think we had an extremely successful Australia Day. I know we've discussed it quite at length before, and what I did want to mention too, of course I wanted to thank our various community groups and individuals who supported such a wonderful day. It was brilliant right from beginning to end. And with the greatest respect to the council colleagues of bygone years and acknowledgement of their efforts, I think that recent years we've seen the Australia Day ceremony really progress dramatically as far as audience participation and the general numbers go. It's certainly been one of the aims, and I know my fellow councillor, Councillor Horton, isn't here, but certainly with Councillor Downing, we were working on that audience participation and involvement. And there's been a lot of technological advances too, and new ideas that have come in, so we've been able to embrace those and increase what's happening out in the audience. But look, what I did note too is that the number of nominations in the last couple of years, there've been 13 in each year, and in the previous years there was an average of about 9. And I thought, wow, that's got to be more than just a coincidence. You know, we're getting out there through other means that are available to us now, social media, live streaming, so on and so forth. So, I wouldn't put money on it, but of course I just see that as being a bit more of a coincidence that we're getting such a better response and more inclusive. Now, look, I will speak briefly too, but there was an overspend. We have recognised that, approximately $2,500, and we did have a budget of originally $24,000. It wasn't anticipated, and I actually like the thought that the reason that's happened is because we ended up with more nominees than what we'd anticipated. So it's been for a good thing. It's not good that we hadn't allowed for it in the budget, but I believe that overall it's occurred for a good purpose. And obviously there are things that we can be doing to make sure that that doesn't happen in future years. You know, there are other dramatic things such as shortlisting or reducing expenses under some other area. But I would think very carefully before we do that, because I think we're actually in the progress of developing this into something even bigger and better. But, you know, we do obviously need to be mindful of budget too. So whether we look at increasing it in the next financial year or allowing for a contingency, there are lots of things that can occur. But I would certainly invite my councillor colleague input into how we might be able to better address this next year, so that, well, in 2027, so that we not only stay within budget but keep the quality that we've been able to maintain. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kiss. Yes, as the seconder, I totally agree. If anything, I do accept that we went over budget, but Australia Day has become a victim of its own success to a degree. Over the past few years it has been building. There was standing room only in the Civic Centre during the ceremony, and I'd like to commend Councillor Horton, did an excellent job as the MC. But it's the one thing that I get more compliments about than anything else is the Australia Day. They all come and tell me for 2 weeks afterwards. I keep getting tapped on the shoulder and saying what a wonderful day it was and how much they enjoyed it. So it is a victim of its own success to a degree, and I'd suggest that probably when we look at the budget next time round, we probably have to increase the budget to accept the fact that more people are turning up, more people are getting nominated, and it's just becoming stronger and stronger. Would anyone else like to comment? Councillor Watt?
Thanks. I do understand the reason of having increased people, but and I'm not sure why this wasn't circulated in the late minutes when there was a question on notice about this issue. It wasn't put into the papers, but the reasons given actually only makes up, like, there's still about $1,000 that wasn't allocated within that, and we did increase the budget last financial year. I do understand the changes in it, but we do have quite strict budgets, as we know, in council, and I think the lack of awareness of that until after is something that's just of concern in the way that we run our committees and the way that we run our budgets. It's always easy to say, oh, it was just a little bit, but if every event goes just a little bit, it really adds up. And I think we do need a bit of that, you know, it's our role as councillors to apply a bit of that discretion in making sure we are taking care of that. So I think, in the correspondence that wasn't included, it's been reported back that committees are going to be required to present a budget and that be monitored. I was a little bit disappointed that wasn't happening already, but I think that's a good policy practice, and I take on Councillor Kiss's recommendation about contingencies. I think that's a really good suggestion and something that is pretty basic in everything we do. So I think that's quite useful. I did have a question. It was, I can't recall if it was, I think it was in the minutes that there was some notes around needing to highlight that the work needed to be a volunteer, needed to be their volunteer work rather than paid work. I just wanted to query why we wanted to make that distinction.
I'm not familiar, well, through the chair, I'm not familiar with that issue off the top of my head, but I do undertake to get back to you.
Yeah, I can add to it a little bit. When we did the judging, and normally I don't sit on it, but there were a couple of conflicts, so I had to step in. And there were people that were nominated that were doing what they've been paid to do, and it was a shame we felt that they were excluded. Even though what they were paid to do was good for the community, they were still, they were excluded, not excluded, but had a less of a voting value because they were doing their job. The fact that they were doing their job exceptionally well made it very difficult to line it all up. So we're questioning that we need a strict policy one way or the other, so that if someone is doing it professionally, that's their job, whether they should be in or should be out. But I think we need a policy so that it's very clear to people why they missed out. They might have been doing a wonderful job, and some of them were, But we looked and thought, well, that's what they're paid to do. So that's the reason. We just need, we haven't got a policy on whether you're in or you're out. And I do think once you make a policy like that, there'll always be someone that you want to have the exception for. But I think we do need it so that we have clarity of exactly where we're going. Councillor Kiss, did you want to comment on that?
If I may add to it just briefly, yes, it's actually in our eligibility criteria that, you know, it should be stipulated whether it's voluntary or it isn't. But what we've found with the nominations coming in is there isn't a distinction necessarily. And we also notice that when it's being presented, there isn't that distinction between this is paid or this is not. So it's already actually in there, but now it's a matter of saying, look, if we've got it there saying, please nominate what is the voluntary component, maybe it needs to go into the application for the nomination form itself to completely differentiate so that it can be in different sections rather than being left guessing as to whether it is or it isn't. Because, you know, quite frankly, even when I look through and I think, well, is that voluntary or isn't it? And yet it's stipulated in the eligibility that this is what things are based on too. So that was just for clarity more than anything.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to comment?
Sorry, if I could just
Councillor Watt,
follow
yes.
through on that question. It was a little bit unclear in the minutes. I'd read it as there was a decision to make it volunteer only. And I feel, I don't want to make it obvious on comments about particular people who put their hand up, but I think there's often people who are in paid work or who are running their own businesses who are doing things that are clearly for community interest in a lot of ways or having a really positive impact on the community. And I think that should be considered in how we do it as well. And I think probably it's worth both the policy review but a review of the marking schedule, which is obviously not part of the policy, to consider how we sit on that. And it's always great to have more people, but it also is hard because you get all these good people who, don't necessarily get acknowledged. But I do think that, the videos and that promotion is a really good way to highlight that. But I think particularly, in cost of living crisis and all of these things, expecting people, only being able to reward people who have the time to volunteer is probably not picking up everyone who's contributing to the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Downing?
Just to say that when I was on the Australia Day committee and making the decision, that is one of the hardest things because there are so many valuable contributions to our community and they are a paid job. They go over and above, but they are paid. So I was just going to ask if you're saying if there's two parts, so is there two awards? Are you thinking there's one for volunteers and one for work, or is that the definition of what you'd be expecting, or it's just still going to be one?
At this point
award?
in time, we haven't made those sort of decisions.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy that that it's stated clearly in the policy. Then you've got that to stand behind when you're making the decisions, because people in the room do take it seriously, but people aren't in the room with you. So I think that's a great idea to have a set of rules that are clearly stated before you start. Just like to say thank you for including the peace bell ringing as well. It got me out of buttering bread, so that was very good. They wouldn't let me butter bread in my nice dress, and I think I'm very wild with butter. But no, it was great to be included and everyone enjoyed it.
Councillor Downing, did you get your dress washed free with the sprinklers when they were on?
No, I got here later.
Right, very good. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Wright?
Yeah, just I'm pretty clear on the confusion you have, or the discussion you're having around paid work and volunteers, but it's got to be remembered the nominee's not nominating themselves, it's the other people that are nominating, that they've got to be able to see and are aware of what we're looking for, so it needs to be clearly identified and go on from there. Yes, you went $3,000 over. When Neville Armstrong would have been here as the Shire Clerk, it'd be $3,000 off next year's budget. At $3,000 is about 12.5% over. It's within operating expenses. You had a budget, you tried to work to it, but you've told us why why you went over, and as the Mayor said, we look at the budget next year, we may have to increase it. The budget's there as a guide, and if you're delivering something on the best way you can on the day, and I didn't hear any complaints about what happened, it's the overrun's not the end of isn't the end of the world. So I congratulate the committee on what they did. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Write a reply, Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It would be remiss of me if I didn't acknowledge the wonderful work that Councillor Horton did up on stage. It's not easy maintaining everybody's interest for that length of time, but yeah, he did it. He did an enormously good job. And once again, thank you to, well, not only the staff, but to the community groups. I started listing them and there was just so many people and I didn't want to miss anybody out, but it really was a whole of community effort. So yeah, thank you to everybody who supported it.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. 5.3, the draft minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee from the 19th of February 2026. Councillor Kiss. I'll second that. Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, as the minutes advise, we were actually presented with a presentation on cybersecurity, and that was by the Central West Joint Organisation procured expert Mr. Weldon Lay. Again, another reason for having our joint organisation. And cybersecurity is, we know it's a very scary part of our world. And I do also acknowledge what Director Dalton provided when he articulated through the meeting that we do have a very good security awareness training occurring, which we all know. So I would ask everybody, if they haven't been keeping up with their training, please do. And they did give us the statistics, and I didn't jot them down, but it was saying that it was actually the end user who, in the majority of the circumstances, is inadvertently, obviously, allowing in these security breaches, and that's pretty darn scary to think that just by clicking on something you can bring a whole network down. But it really does highlight that even when we're doing these bits of training, that's the reason. It's just to make you think twice. But we have a good training in process, so yeah, that's great. The high risk item that I think is a fabulous part of our ARIC. We have a review that occurs, and this one was regard to the policy management framework, because as we know, we've been having a look through it and identified that some of our policies aren't as up to date as what they could have been. Doesn't mean they're necessarily out of date, but they really do need a bit of a review. So it's been good to be able to look back on those and identify that, you know, everything's been at least brought up to date and addressed with new legislation and anything else that needs to occur. So thank you.
Thank you. The ARIC is a very dry old committee that you sit there and you look at a lot of things. As Councillor Kiss says, the cyber security thing was almost scary as much as anything else. The AI thing today, and they can make up a website that looks identical to a proper website. It's very difficult. You've got to look for all sorts of things, and if you're in any doubt, you go and see your IT people. It's a very scary situation we live in today, that they can purport to be someone who they're not, and even the videos that they can put words in people's mouth, and you can't pick up the difference. The whole thing is scary. But leave that aside. The ARIC, we have 3 independent members these days. Our councillors, Councillor Kiss sits on the ARIC committee as a non-voting member, and anyone else that wishes to turn up can, but we're observers only. I go, I observe, so that's all we're allowed to do. But they do include you. It's very interesting. It's a dry old committee, I'll first to admit that, but it's a necessary one. It's one that appears to be operating very well, and it does nitpick, and sometimes things need to be nitpicked. So I think it's a good thing, and it is. I do find it interesting. I noticed the sausage rolls weren't there this time. I don't know who's responsible for that, but I think the place is not going as well as it used to. Okay. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Wright.
Yeah, well, you've got to pick up the 3,000 the Australia Day committee spent, I suppose. item 7.4 in the February meeting, psychosocial hazards audit. What is a psychosocial hazard?
Through the chair, psychosocial hazards are, and forgive me if it's a bit of a confusing statement, but it's anything that can affect the mental health and well-being of a member of staff. So it could, for example, include unpalatable behaviours such as bullying. It could be a person who is asked to work excessive hours or who chooses to and puts themselves in a position where their mental well-being is at risk. So we have a number of policies in our HR area around how we treat our staff and how we manage these issues. The audit is our internal audit, which we schedule one of every year, and will be commencing within the next month.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's explained it very well. It just puts all the possible hazards into one gender, and it's a bit of a close item of mine. Is keeping everyone else on track, keeping their minds free of anything that shouldn't be there, that's going to affect their job. And I did say that I used to drive past this building at night and there'd be a few lights on, and I spoke to the general manager about it at the time, and he said, oh, people stay there to work and finish off things, get things done. And I said, oh, that's good. But in that previous organisation, the Rural Counselling Service, they'd have to give reports how many hours they were working and so forth. And we learned out of that, if people are doing overtime regularly, quite often it isn't because they've got work to do, they don't want to go home. And that's their little safe spot. And I think that's things we got to look at. You wouldn't think normally that might be happening. I'm not saying that people are doing that here, but there's a lot of things goes on that people can use work as to cover the other problems in their life, and we need to look after our staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Psychosocial hazards and risks is the area of focus for WorkSafe in this year, which is one of the reasons it's come up for us, and it's something that's been talked about a lot in Business New South Wales and places like that. While it covers things like bullying and harassment, it also covers things where incident at work might create mental health issues or impacts. And obviously we have places like the pool where we employ lifeguards who could witness or participate in an incident where they have to provide first aid. Things like that are hazards of hazards from where we work, and we know obviously there is some risk for our outdoor workers of witnessing injury or getting an injury themselves. And it's, I think, thinking in that broader sense of how do we both prevent that and how do we deal with it when it happens, and making sure we've got practices in place like our EAP, like debriefing and elements like that to make sure we're reducing the impact if it does happen. But I think it's also a really useful addition in, when you're considering a risk, that you're not just considering, oh, they might get hurt physically. And it's like, oh, but then there may also be quite ongoing things that obviously impact the organisation and impact the individuals that we don't want to have, obviously. So it's quite an interesting framing of thinking about all those extra pieces. I'm very excited to see the policy review in the minutes. Obviously, it's been a focus for this council for quite some time. I think the important way to look at it, we do have quite a list that haven't been reviewed regularly, And I think people, might think, oh, well, it's probably not likely to change, but you don't know until you read it that something might have changed. And we do have so many policies that we can miss things, and, there can kind of be a cascade of it. We've got a report later today where there was little changes every couple of years over the 10 years, and they do add up in how those policies are utilised. And general risk management framework is that you do set these frameworks. In my business, there's nothing we review every 4 years. Everything is much more regularly than that, as well as getting staff and councillors to review it. And the terms in most of our policies have been set at 4 years, so that each council reviews the policies, which sets out that frame for governance that we've really lost here. But it's good to see that that's a focus. We've still got more work to do, but we are progressing through that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Right to reply, Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'd like to thank everybody that's had a bit of a talk about ARIC. It is an extremely important committee, and even if you're not on the committee, please feel free to come and have a look. And actually, much to what Councillor Watt was saying about the reviewing of policies too, one of the things that I do recall being mentioned is that there is opportunity to stagger the renewal time. So it's not, as you said, not necessarily always going to be 4 years. Sometimes it might be 1 year. Sometimes it might be 3, just depending on what the policy's about and whether state legislation's likely to change. But it's also to reduce that, every 4 years, oh my gosh, everything's behind, and then we're not able to keep up with it as well. So that's been really positive in being able to stagger and actually consider what is needed specific to that policy. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. 5.4, donation to the Woodstock Soldiers Memorial Hall for a concert. Councillor Downing. Councillor Watt. Councillor Downing.
Yes, the Woodstock Memorial Hall Committee has asked us for $1,500 to assist with its costs running the Festival of Small Halls, which is a musical event that they've had going on for quite a number of years now. Council's made donations in the past. They've also got a budget for the night. They're going to make the rest of the money up, and they've got a grant from Arts Out West, which is $500 as well. The festival provides the opportunity for villages to host international and renowned Australian musical performers, and it aims to use village halls and connect community. And the Woodstock Hall is an old lady. She celebrated her 100th birthday in 2024. And it's a credit to the volunteers who maintain the hall. When Councillor Horton and I go out there for our Progress Association meetings, we meet in the hall. All the maintenance and everything is done by them, with grants funding as well, but a lot of hard work from the community goes into that. I was interested when I was actually reading about the hall that it was built in remembrance of Army, Navy and Air servicemen and women in the Woodstock community, and my pop was one of those. So I'm very happy to support that and what they do out there and give them this donation.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Anyone else wish to comment? I'll just throw my little bit in here, if I could, that Woodstock is one of the communities that do help themselves to a large degree, and I agree with Councillor Downing. When you're in that hall, look up, and when you look up, you'll see what they've done, because it's an old hall that's got its issues, and they've worked on it. But yeah, if you look up, you'll see just the amount of work that has gone into it. Councillor Kiss.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to say much the same as you. Woodstock is renowned for helping themselves, and I think the more we can support them into helping themselves, they're very progressive and they take great pride and ownership. I think all the better. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Passed. Thank you. 6.1, Council Buildings Renewal and Upgrade Program for 2026-27 through to 2028-29. Councillor Kiss. Councillor Wright. Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, this has just come to us to advise that of the next 2 years' worth of building renewal and upgrades that have been proposed. They're certainly not set in concrete yet. They need to go into the operational plan, long-term financial plan. But at this stage, there's considered to be over $1.1 million worth of planned renewals and upgrades. As I said, over the next 2 years, these are mainly to address longer term regular maintenance type items, as well as bringing things up to standards such as air energy standards, accessibility standards, and so forth. And look, while I'm at it too, I do concur with Councillor Watt's observations about the airport terminal. But, you know, again, this is going to be happening and we will have more discussion about this. It'd be sad to see an old girl let go, but you know, we need to be fiscally responsible as well. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, it's a detailed outline of what needs to do to our major infrastructure buildings, and I note that the administration building in which we meet here tonight has had a fair few items to be done. The air conditioning system that goes in the ground and comes out, do we clean that regularly, or has it just been, it's come to an attention that it needs to be cleaned now?
Through the chair, I think in the body of the report, when I talked about the duct cleaning, is all the actual internal AC ducting, and that was certainly not cleaned regularly, so it was good to clean that out. The other part of the report talks about the furnace units which are in the ceiling, which deal with the thermal air from the thermal circulation system. So there's filters on that which are regularly maintained.
Thank you. It was sort of something that was talked about at the time when it was built, or something. It was 3.5 kilometres or something of polythene pipe went into the ground to put the water through to run this, the form of air conditioning we have in the building, and we might have been ahead of our time. So I haven't heard Chris Bowen talk about it, but it could have some benefit to our expenses. But no, we do need to look after our buildings, and I support what's been put in this paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Watt.
Thank you. Just to follow up on Councillor Wright's first, I guess the question was, were we following the logical maintenance and checking of the system? Were the reviews that we've done something we should have been doing more regularly to prevent the degradation?
So I talked in the report about the air conditioning units being carried out by Kilby's as the regular maintenance suppliers. So they had a staff member who was well aware of the capacities and constraints of our system, and we had a similar staff member. So my answer would be yes, it was maintained up until both those staff members left, and then all of that corporate knowledge. So there's been a little period, probably only 6 months, to source these new units, to get a new person in to say, look, you can't fix what we've got. No one has the expertise anymore.
Thanks for that. It's always a problem, isn't it, that technology changes quickly? Fantastic, thanks. Yes, and as councillors and the community would see, in our late item 8.1, I have raised questions around the terminal building. Just to follow up on some of the responses there and answering a few more of the questions I raised, there are 2 allocations in the BAR with some of the expenditure happening, around $25,000 happening in year 1. Is that's also for the terminal building, or is that for a separate space?
That's for a separate space, and I think we've resolved internally to call those buildings different things.
Yeah, it's for
the terminal building and the airport house are not the same building. Yeah. So
okay,
the airport house is the house that used to have the RFS area office in it. Up at the intersection.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. and had asked whether we have an anticipation of the lifetime of the repairs proposed to the terminal building.
Well, I didn't answer that directly because I'm waiting to get the information on the potential lease and come back to you with the full package.
Yeah.
This is what the expected life of the repairs is going to be, and this is what the lease income is projected from our valuation.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, I think it would be useful for us to wait to get that valuation there, but it is certainly an eyesore of a building, and I think sometimes you get to a point where you can't fix something, unfortunately. But I think we should, make that decision with cost benefit analysis of where we go from there. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Right, a reply, Councillor Kiss.
Not needed, thank you.
Put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. 6.2, the Goolagong Village request for consideration of a splash pad. Councillor Kiss. Councillor Watt. Thank you. Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to thank Mr Niven, firstly, for bringing his enthusiasm I believe on behalf of the Goolagong people here tonight when he was speaking about the consideration of a splash pad. And I'd just like to remind everybody that this is just to provide an in-principle approval. So, what do we actually think of it as opposed to we're actually going to go ahead with it. And thank you to Director Lyman and his staff for bringing this report to us as well. It can be easy for our villagers to think that they've been left behind, and I would like to assure them that they're not, but things do take time. And frequently asked by residents about why can't council just do this or just do that, but it's really not that simple. It might be easy enough to get a grant to put something in, but it's always the ongoing operational considerations that need a greater deal of thought as opposed to whether it just goes in or it doesn't. And this includes things like ownership, liability, responsibility, maintenance, operationals, setup costs, regulations. And one thing I would like to acknowledge with the Goolagong Village is that I believe they really appreciate that. They understand the underlying considerations that need to be met. That this is going to be an investment in their time, their skills. They will need to have active involvement in order to make this a continuing project. It does say that council would be needing to acquire a grant to fully fund the project. Roughly $340,000. As I said, that's really the least of it. That would be the long-term commitment of the whole village to maintaining it. But look, they've got a good track record of providing for themselves, much like we were talking about with the Woodstock Village. They're very enthusiastic and committed. They've got a thriving school, about 29 students. I was thinking it was 23, but I was corrected there. Look, I would love to see this happen. I believe that they have the ability to maintain it. As I said, this is in principle to say, do we actually support it? But I would like to see that as a council that we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to Charlie again for bringing this forward and the great work of the Goolagong Progress Association in developing this. I think this looks fantastic. It's something that we know we're putting in a splash pad at the pool, which is very exciting. It's definitely a piece of infrastructure that is developing around communities, and there has been some feedback of disappointment that the splash pad in Cowra is something you'll have to pay to get into. And so I think supporting this, if we're able to get a grant, will be a really good way to ameliorate some of those challenges. It's also really fantastic for the Goolagong Park that it's in. We all know what parks are like in the heat, and I've taken my son out to Gooley in the middle of summer, and it's pretty hard to enjoy that playground when it's, the plastic gets pretty hot. So I think having something that is available in the hot weather will really help people continue to go out in the hotter summer months. Good articulation. I think it's really important as well to see this in context. The park is next to the caravan park, and something families are really looking for when they come camping is those additional infrastructure pieces. We've obviously got the playground, the beautiful park, and the toilet facilities that went in a couple of years ago, and a real demonstration of the great work that the community are doing here in collaboration with the council, and that they advocate very strongly for themselves, which is fantastic to see. I think Charlie said there had been 160 different caravans come through in the last 6 weeks, so they're really doing amazing work in getting people into the town, and we know so much from the research that people who participate in free camping or low-cost camping do contribute to the economy, in that they often go out for dinner and they often spend in the community, which is really useful to maintain elements like the pub and the country club there, and support the locals to be able to have something to access, which we know can be so important for rural communities in lots of different ways, particularly in times of drought or natural disaster, have those spaces there to go to. And the tourism dollar always helps a lot. And as we saw with Charlie today, they're so proud of their community and love showing it off to people who want to come. So well done. Hopefully we get a grant soon.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to comment? Councillor Wright.
I think the most important part of this recommendation is in the last line, subject to finalising a licence agreement with the council prior to the grant application. So the village has got to commit themselves, and they've indicated they are prepared to commit themselves, and we can get that down. I think staff have already should be congratulated. They've already given a lot of work into the concept for a splash pad out there, from what I can read, and it's I think it has got merit, even though it might only be used for 5 or 6 months of the year. Then which is good. It might even be used longer. I don't know, but with climate change, the water might be hotter or something, and be able to go through in winter. But it might get used after a few balls at the log cabin hall, sober ourselves up, be able to drive home. But there's always something with these sort of things. The concept's good, but like you've got to maintain the cleanliness of the water, and how that, and there's a container full of equipment to do that, to maintain the water, and somewhere to discharge it when it can't be cleaned anymore, and everything's not easy. And but we have Woodstock's mentioned, but there's a pool out there at Woodstock that the community looks after, and it must meet the hygiene regulations to be able to operate when there's enough people there to make it operate. And I wish them all the well, the Goolagong people, for having something to bring this to council. They've seen it in operation in other towns, and I think it would be a good benefit to the village park there. And I suppose if you're looking for support, you could go to the major employer in the area there, that they might be able to throw a bit of coin in or something to help maintain it going forward. I believe a lot of the residents in Goolagong now do work for that, for the big employer in the area there, and they have got a good community reputation, I think, the operation, and wouldn't hurt to talk to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Kiss, right a reply?
Not necessary, thank you.
Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Passed. Thank you. 6.3, the Cowra Sports Fields Master Plans. You can do that. Councillor Downing. Councillor Kiss. Thank you. Councillor Downing.
Yippee, we have them. I'd just like to say I'm sad Councillor Horton isn't here for this moment because we've both been working with it with the staff and the Sport and Rec Committee. So the master plans that we have that are going, this is to send them out on public exhibition so the community can see what we've been working on, and I would love their feedback. So it's for West Cowra Recreational Ground, Edgell Park and Mullian Oval. Considered throughout the plans are accessibility, sustainability, safety and community engagement. I'd just like to congratulate the staff on the amazing work they've done. It's been a credit to Rod Hayes, who's taken up the challenge, has attended sport and recreation meetings, had feedback sifted through and come up and spoken to the designers and come up with these plans with a lot of consultation from our local sporting groups. They were given plans every time we met with changes, anything that they could take to their committees, which is pretty incredible, seeing it's such a large body of work. Understanding the plan is a must if you're going to have a look at it. It's important to note that only stage 1 of West Cowra Recreation Ground and stage 1 of Mullian Oval is actually funded. They're the female amenities. The rest of them, it's up to grant funding and seeing how we go in the future. But we have the plan there, we have the map, we have the footprint of what we want it to look like, which is exciting. It just gives us that roadmap and we can take advantage of opportunities when they come up. Feedback from the Sport and Rec Committee are such as referees' rooms and where they're positioned and how they need to be together so they can run out together. Game day match box that they'll need at Rugby League for filming, that kind of thing are things that the Sport and Recreation Committee have come up with while looking at the plan. So that's why it's so valuable in this sort of community area to have so much great consultation. The plan has great features and so the strengths for preferred concepts and opportunities are all there. And it also has budget estimates, which are a little bit scary when you look at them because they're for now. So we're looking at 9.5 million for finished at West Cowra. We're looking at 2.3 at Edgell Park and 4.8 at Mullian. So it's a substantial investment for our community and it'll all be done piece by piece. With money that doesn't belong to us, I'd assume. I am so happy to get this out to the community and hope that the other councillors will support it, and it's been a great opportunity for the Sport and Rec Committee to work with the staff and get a great outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Exactly as I thought. Councillor Downing's left very little for me to say. I really appreciate her enthusiasm, truly, and I'm just saddened that Councillor Horton isn't here to share his as well. Look, we've discussed this at length. Incredible enthusiasm from our Sport and Rec Committee, from the staff, as I said, from Councillor Downing and Councillor Horton. Very exciting project. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully, Councillor Horton will be watching it from his sick bed. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the Sport and Rec Committee, the staff and the councillors on that committee for all your hard work. Getting together these plans is really difficult, but I think to echo Councillor Downing, this plan really shows the benefit of having those engaged committees in that we're putting forward to the community a plan that is backed by so many the user groups that are using it. It's got so much of that insight into how these facilities are actually used. I think often when we put things on exhibition that are this significant and ask for user groups input at that point, we can get a lot of change, or we can have a lot of challenges in actually getting that done, because it's quite difficult to go back to consultants at that point. But I think for something of this scale that hopefully, it's kind of once in a generation expenditure when we get the grants, will be really significant. And it's really great that this is kind of initiated from the great work of the clubs to get the female accessibility grants for the bathrooms, which is, as always, very sad that we have to fight for grant funding for women to be able to participate. But that is, unfortunately, the world we're in as a council, that we don't have the kind of funding to be able to do those infrastructure upgrades, and generationally not having significant funds to do what we want to do means that sometimes things fall behind. I do have a few questions, if I can, through the chair. Firstly, is the game day box for West Cowra included in the financial estimates here? And if not, what's the anticipated cost of that?
Through the chair, I don't believe the game day box is in the estimate, so I'll have to take that on notice about what that's going to cost. But we've come up with a solution there which should be relatively not costly in comparison to the total price discussed estimate.
Yeah, fantastic. Taking that as, it won't add $1 million or something like that. And this is probably just that I'm not a sport person. So I noticed on Edgell Park that the baby change room is combined, the baby change table is in the referee room. In most situations, you'd see it in the accessible bathroom. Just wondering why that is.
I'll take that one on notice as well. Thanks, Councillor.
I have a feeling, sorry, that that's not going to be used all the time as a referee's room. So it was a use of space. They wanted extra storage areas, and the referees would only be there on game days for senior soccer. That would be the main times they'd use referees' rooms. So I think it would be a space concern, but we can check.
Yeah, fantastic. If we could just investigate why that rather than the accessible room, which is often, like the space contingency makes it work, and there's, benefits for using the table for other things in accessible room. And if we can look into that for the other designs as well, because I think Edgell Park was the only one that had a change table there. Sorry, 2 more questions. There was a design contingency, wondering what that means.
In the estimates, they'll come up with a sort of gross figure based on the floor plan area and the type of construction. So that's going to be your rough order of magnitude cost for the building, and then they'll work out a percentage. Have an industry standard a percentage for the design, and then they'll say, okay, we'll put a bit of a contingency on top of that, just to make sure that hopefully the estimates are going to cover the actual cost.
Yeah, right. I was just intrigued at why there was that contingency and the building contingency. It seems it's good always to have lots of contingencies, but it was one I hadn't seen before in our reports, but that's really useful. Lastly, I noted that all the estimates make a point to say there's no contingency for electricity connection or removal of contaminated material. Do we have any concerns about these facilities having asbestos or other contaminated materials?
The answer is in general, maybe. Mm. Because once you start work, that's when you're going to find an issue. So if we looked at our asbestos register on the buildings, it's pretty general. But it would say likely that the kitchen area has bonded asbestos. So I think it's wise to have that contingency in there.
You'd say it is wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not currently it makes a point under each of the estimates that it's not in there.
So we're looking at the strategic level planning here, not the actual construction costs when we get down to actually doing something. So if I was talking about the female change rooms project, for example, no worries about asbestos contingencies there because it's all new and there's no proposal to demolish anything. But I think that the point for the larger strategic view is when we do start demolishing things, that's when it's likely we'll need to include that contingency when we say put in a grant application for something, say, what would it be? Mm-hmm. Probably get the assessment done closer to the actual grant application.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, that's helpful to know because I was a bit concerned about that being missing when they're obviously old buildings that could have that. And I'm presuming we don't need any contingency for electricity because they're all already connected to the grid.
They are, but I think that the reason that the contingency is not there is because there's so much unknowns with dealing with essential energy that we actually need to get the specific advice again closer to the project. And that is a project risk for the current project as well. So, but hopefully that's covered in the estimates we've put forward for the grant.
Fantastic, thank you. Sorry, I've just remembered one more. I note that there's minor solar contingency included. Is that included in the stage ones that are funded by the female change rooms, or are they planned for stage 2?
Yeah, there wasn't any solar included in that scope of works for the grant funded works.
Yeah, beautiful, thanks.
Anyone else wish to comment?
Sorry, I was just going to
Councillor
say, but it's
Cave?
also amazing. Sorry for all the questions. I think it's really good, and it's such a great opportunity for us when we get these big plans, because it is the beginning of a big piece of change. Thanks.
Councillor Cave.
I want to congratulations Councillor Horton and Downing about getting this all up and running, because we've come a long way. We're only a small community to start off with the sporting. Cowra's been I've known us in the history since I've been here and back before. We've had a lot of very well-known sporting people coming here, and it's nice to see it growing and growing and growing. And we do need to put the structure into the sporting areas for stopping, you see a lot of people getting changed in their cars on the roads, out in public, and if we have that there, we can use it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't got right into this detail, but it appears we're sort of looking at upgrading whatever grounds are being used at the moment for whatever sports that they're being used for. Is there any thought of having one supreme ground and that can accommodate for many sports on a regional basis for representative games and so forth, rather than it's going to cost a lot of money to go into West Cowra to do that up. If it's only going to be there for the rugby league people, and I see the NRL, we've used a lot of figures from the NRL on what space we need for every different part of the structure. Would we be better having a dedicated supreme sporting facility that would cater for a lot of these events, or am I too far out of the square? Thank you.
Opposed, Councillor Downing.
I don't know if I actually know the exact answer, but I'm going to say that we're going to need a lot more money to get a Glen Willow such as in Mudgee, and that's the decision. And also, if you look at the West Cowra Recreation Ground plans, there are soccer fields on there as well. The soccer doesn't really have a home ground at the moment. They're at Edgell Park, so it would be to incorporate that further down the track. The dog track will be taken out, so that is all part of it as well, squaring up that field. So that is thoughts that it could be multiple use, and it could be attract bigger games from the NRL. But that obviously that is in a residential area, so we don't really have anything much to expand. So no, there hasn't been any plan for that bigger, larger scale sporting complex. We're working with what we've got at the moment.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I'm not looking for a multi-field type thing, just something that it can be used for these different, if you want to have hockey, soccer and that, or even athletics and so forth. It gets a bit hard when you want a running track, but a lot of people have said that, like, if you want to build a grandstand for something, to have a good view, you want to be able to use it more than just for every second week for a rugby league match. And I thought we've got millions allocated for 3 or 4 grounds in the thing, but if we do have one big plan for one, it's in there ready as possibly what we can do there. If the thing come up, we could apply for that to bring it into a multifunctional centre, but I'm just dreaming. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else's comment? I agree with Councillor Downing. The amount of money required to build a Glen Willow, as same as Mudgee's got, is astronomical. Much as we'd love to have one, not only we require more money, it would require a lot more ground. Somewhere we'd have to start, as Mudgee did on a greenfield site. Huge complex, and I know it costs them a lot of money and is continuing to cost them a lot of money. So brings a lot of benefit to their town though. So that's the answer there. Councillor Downing, right of reply.
No, just to say thank you for all the questions and get the community to have a look and see what's going to happen and have their feedback as well. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. 7.1, the draft Cowra contribution plan of 2026. Councillor Kiss. Councillor Fagan. Thank you. Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I have to admit this was a bit of a learning curve for me. I actually didn't realise that we had to have a contribution plan in order to be able to actually request the levy of contributions. But yes, that is exactly the way it is. If we're going to ask for development contributions, we actually have to have a plan in place to say this is actually a detail of where the things are going to be spent. The money needs to be spent to benefit the wider community. There are certainly different categories, but it's generally through amenities, infrastructural services, and it has been 10 years since our last contribution plan was put in place. So this is updating with some different legislation and also detailing that there'll be 15 projects where it would be spread across at a value of $1.49 million. And that's already, that it's only based on what's already in the long-term financial plan as well. So this recommendation is to support it going out on public exhibition, or at least going to council to then go to public exhibition as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fagan.
Yes, this is a complicated document and I congratulate the department for coming up with it. This is a change from what we used to call Section 94 contributions, and it's a change in legislation, so it does have to be updated, and should have done it a couple of years ago, I think, but it's great that we've got this opportunity to look at it. I'm slightly confused in that I'm happy to put it on. I'm happy to support the recommendation, but there are some questions that I probably need to put to the director at some stage just to ask about a few things. But I'm also very happy to say that in the 2016 Section 94 contribution plan, they said that we would reach a population of 12,447 in 2031. Happy to tell you we have reached that in 2026. So we're 5 years ahead of our planning already. So that was a bit of a detail that I was quite enthused about. We've gained 312 more citizens than they've actually asked us that they proposed in 2016. That's a really good sign, and I think that this is it's a very complicated document, and I found that I was reading it in light of the 94 contributions, and I'm a bit confused about the fact that with our list of eligible projects, I'm quite happy with the 7-Eleven transport ounce of money. I think the 7-Eleven is really the Section 7-Eleven contributions that are given in a certain area generally by businesses and people in those areas, and then it's spent on infrastructure for those areas like the Nangar Street and Pridham Street infrastructure, which is really important. And it was on the next section. It was on the original list. And the only other thing that I'm concerned about is Section 712 community list of expenditures. And I understand, and it's on page 234. And I understand. I'm not quite sure how we came up with that list because it is supposed to be for community. And the first thing on the list is the solar panels and batteries on the Cowra Civic Centre, on the council amenities administration building. So I'm just wondering about that list and how we came up with that list, because to me it may not resonate well with the community as being a community infrastructure. I understand that we provide the civic centre or the council community building for wait a minute, hold on, can't find it. It's such a long document, goes on forever. And it does say that the first thing we're going to see is a civic centre, solar installer and battery storage. I guess it's a amenity for civic use, but it is quite a long way down my list of priorities. But that's a debate we may or may not have. I'm not sure how. The Library Art Gallery solar install and battery storage is the second on the list. I know these things are in our long-term financial plan, and that's where they've come from. But I do think, there's some there that probably I know I would love to see the playground asset renewals further up the list, as we've spoken about quite a lot of times. But I don't know how this list is produced, so I can't make a comment other than to ask the director later at another time, and maybe to put in a submission myself. What I am asking for is asking the community to have a look at this, to come back to us with anything that they think that's a bit different. I'm sure the planning people in town, the developers and planners in town will have a good look at it, because it has changed according to legislation. I'm not saying we haven't changed it, but it has changed according to legislation. It is quite tricky. It is not an easy document to read. I do have to ask though, are these 1.495 capital expenditure, is that money we already have? I was going to look up the budget, but I haven't had time. The 1.4 million that on page 234 that you're saying that we're going to spend on these works, on the work schedule, we don't actually have that money in our Section 94 contributions, do we? Or Section 711s? No, that's right. This is all, future proofing. It's money we're wishing for. So, I was also interested in that we haven't actually got a list of, and I should look in the budget to see what we're actually spending, how much money we actually have now and how we're spending it. If we could do something about that, I think that would be very useful for everybody to understand what we've spent Section 94 contributions in the past. They do get allocated according to the budget, but they're quite, our budget's got lots of lines in it, and there is figures in there that says they're from the Section 94 contributions. So this will take place with that, and if we'd have a list of what we've spent on in the past, that would be very helpful, I think, for everybody. The Section 94 policy is actually on our hub if you want to have a look, and it doesn't enlighten you any more than this one, but it is good, and I'd just ask our community, developers, planners and people who are interested in these types of things to have a look at it and get back to us within the 28 days that we're going to put on public exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Watt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the department for putting this together. It's a big piece of work. I think there's just a little bit of missed information. The anticipated cost of these projects is 19.9 million, but the anticipated income from contributions is 1.49, which is obviously a big gap in between those two pieces. And a frequent issue for councils is that contributions vastly fall below the planned infrastructure, especially when we look into areas where, on reflection, we've identified that we would like further infrastructure, such as town sewerage being provided, such as water being provided to new development areas, which through the housing strategy we have looked at making commitments to, as well as conversations we had recently around looking to have guttering to provide better protection from flooding, particularly in West Cowra. And over my time as councillor, we've had conversations about opening up future developments or subdivisions, and one of the real barriers we get is that we don't have the money to put in place that public infrastructure to get back. And while 7.11 and 7.12 contributions aren't meant to completely cover the cost, I think we're potentially losing a bit of that connection between the two and what the development contributions are contributing to those infrastructure projects. And as Councillor Fagan noted, there's a lot of projects we would like to fund in that. We are in a situation where we are struggling to maintain things like our playgrounds to a level that we would like. also struggle. You know, we're seeing a number of them get to the point where they aren't providing for the community what was originally intended. So I think there's a need for us to kind of think through how that's matching, and particularly in the context that we know as councillors when, you know, construction costs have increased so much more than CPI. We see it in our grant funding in terms of what's happening going forward. I think it's a question we should really dig into. So I've got a few questions that I think we should consider. For section 711, was there any consideration given as to whether CPI was the most appropriate calculation to put forward, and whether we feel like over the past 10 years it's actually kept up with the cost of infrastructure that we have planned to do?
Through the chair, CPI is the way it's indexed under the legislation. So we really don't have a choice other than to go with that.
That's not correct. 7.12 is under the legislation, the levy amounts, but 7.11 isn't. Some councils use construction index and some councils use purchasing power index to determine it, and some use a combination of all three.
I'll have to take it on notice and get back to you.
Yeah, could I please ask that be undertaken and returned in a report to council before submissions close? Also, in research of other councils, including Orange's contributions, other councils index quarterly rather than annually. I'm wondering if any consideration was given to that. No, could we also please have that investigated as an option? I know that there's sometimes a bit of complexity in it. I just wanted to see which contributions are applied to CDCs, and whether we, particularly as we see the state government pushing people more towards CDCs, that we're picking up contributions through that as well.
What's CCC?
Compliant development certificates. Complying development certificates.
So can I get clarification? What exactly are you after with that?
Clarification that contributions are, through our policy, contributions will apply to CDCs.
They should comply. They should apply to CDCs, and they would actually be as a condition of consent that prior to any works being commenced, that those contributions would have to be paid regardless of whether it's through council or a private certifier.
Yep. Okay. Great. Thank you. And sorry, one more. There is a significant change in this contributions policy, shifting key residential growth areas from section 7.11 to section 7.12. Just wondering if you can give us some insight on what that anticipated change will have to our long-term financial plan in terms of income.
I'll have to take that on notice and get back to you.
Okay, great. That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watt. Okay, anybody else wish to comment? Councillor Kiss, right of reply.
Not needed, thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. The Section 355 Committee draft minutes, the Environmental Sustainability Committee meeting held on Monday the 2nd of February 2026. Councillor Fagan. Councillor Wright, thank you. Councillor Fagan.
I just say there's a correction. It says Chairperson Ruth Fagan. It doesn't say Councillor Ruth Fagan. It's really just a typo. That's all.
In the minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Present.
Councillor Fagan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the correction. Just to say that this committee is ongoing and quite enthusiastic. It is difficult to get a handle on what our actual role is, but we are working on that. The Clean Up Australia Day, unfortunately, came around before we thought about it. 1st of March is beginning of the year. It's always a bit difficult, so we're planning to find a place to clean up next year. That's the other problem that we have. We have to find somewhere that's not clean that's outside, that's a safe place to go, because the old days of wandering along highways and byways are not suitable anymore. And what we have to do is to organise a specific place, maybe a laneway or something that would benefit from a clean up by the community, and encourage people to go and do it. But it is not, it's not recommended that we do it on highways as we used to do it. So we have to find somewhere that's not well looked after and is safe to go and clean up. So that's one of the things. The other thing is the bird hides. We've the bird spotters in our group feel that they need to, it's a great idea to have, and other places have around sewage treatment works, which is not exactly the best place to go, that they put up bird hides, which is apparently an amazing attraction, and tourism benefits greatly from that. It's a very big, Australian birds are world renowned, and a lot of people come to Australia to go bird watching. Cowra is one of the best places apparently to watch birds, so we're investigating some bird hides, including and changing the archbird. And the last thing is two things. We're having Waste to Art next week, and there is a workshop on the 16th, is it? Out at the next Wednesday out at the MRF for people who would like to recycle and make art, and that will be part of our ongoing. And also we're going to have we've got a small environmental projects fund which we've reassessed, and we're putting out the grant applications for that. And also we are having a weed awareness month in October along with our safety and biosecurity officers. So watch out for that, because you'll all be very keen to come and find out and enter the competition of what weed is that, because we're going to have that. And we've got some really good guest speakers, and hopefully get a lot of weedy people along to have a look. So that's all from the Environmental Sustainability Committee, and we look forward to our meeting next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
I congratulate Councillor Fagan for the update of the meeting that I didn't attend. I'm having trouble working a routine around a 10 a.m. start. I'm sorry, it might settle down, my routine, I think, hopefully. They're very active, and I look forward to the weed month, and I can sit in my sack of seeds and smoke my cigarette.
Councillor Watt.
Just regarding weeds, I don't have to wait till October for a weed thing. I've got a massive outbreak of noxious weeds at the moment on my property, and it's a disgrace, but I'm going to try and fix it. Thank you.
Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Wright for always bringing the humour. We love it. Just wanted to mention that the Cowra Youth Council has participated in Clean Up Australia Day for the past 2 years, and I'm sure would be very happy to collaborate with the Environmental Sustainability Committee on doing that. We didn't get the most exciting this year, but last year they did find a bike down by the river, so that was always interesting. But yeah, I think they collected 10 bags of rubbish this year as well, and so they'd be very happy to have people come along. And I'm sure Weed Month, luckily, comes at a good time with that 130, 180 mils that we had recently. I'm sure they'll be everywhere. So keep up the good work.
Anyone else wish to comment? I'd just like to say, I think it was on Sunday was Clean Up Australia Day. There were 2 people on the Bora Road with bags of rubbish picking it up, and until then I personally didn't realise it was the day. So, Councillor Watt. Councillor Kiss.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Watt. I did see that the Youth Council went, in particular because we were having Youth Ambassadors meeting, and it was like, we've got to get out. They were so enthusiastic. So, yeah, look, it's great to see our young people out there and embracing the Clean Up Australia Day. Just a question. It's also really good on page 26 to see that small environmental projects fund actually coming to life. It's always been sitting up on our website and doing very little. So I'd love to see that taken on board. I did notice that says it's going to continue to be available to local businesses. So I was just hoping that's also available to not-for-profits, for instance, whether that's just a continue to be or so, and the director's over there nodding. So that's great. It was just the wording I wasn't quite sure on. And a curiosity as to why the grant would be advertised only during the 2 months of the year, as opposed to being just an all-round available thing, that like the Access Incentive Fund, so that when a grant comes up and it's actually the right time of the year to be planting or doing or whatever, that it's not available right then. So is there any particular reason at all?
Well, yes, we actually, it's very, we decided, well, we could bring it up again. I mean, something we haven't really, we've got a new, we did the new forms, application forms, and that's where the business section came out. We decided that we would include businesses, haven't been in the past, or they've been a bit, hasn't been very clear of whether businesses can apply or not, so we've included businesses. And we decided that it's very difficult to continue to tell people about the application, and if somebody came to us with an application, I'm sure we would, out of season, we would consider it, but it's very difficult to publicise it. So if we can make a big push in publicising it when it's actually and get them in and make those decisions at once, that it's a much easier option than trying to do them at piecemeal and at different times, because they are time reliant, a lot of them, and so it was decided that we'd actually just have a big push, because doing all these things is really great, but it does take a lot of time and effort and a lot of promotion that we don't have the time for. So they're the reasons why we've decided that, but happy to take it on board and bring it up at the next meeting next week if anyone wants to consider it. But I think as far as activities go, it's actually a one-off and it's much easier to manage.
Thank you. Anyone else got any comments? Right, a reply, Councillor Fagan.
I think that was my reply. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Pass. Thank you. 8.1 is the late reports in the pink folder that you've all got. And the recommendation is that we note the responses provided to the questions raised after the agenda was published. They're all listed there. Can I have somebody?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Councillor Fagan. Councillor Watt, thank you. Councillor Fagan. Councillor Watt. Anyone else wish to comment? Right, a reply, Councillor Fagan. All those in favour? Pass, thank you. We'll now go to confidential matters. So we need to turn off the... I do the motion. Well, we'll struggle with this one. So we have a late report on lot 296 DP 72232 Carlton Street. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 10A2D1 of the Local Government Act, and Council is satisfied that the discussion on this matter in an open meeting would on balance be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. Can I have someone move? And Councillor Wright, Councillor Kiss, thank you. Councillor Wright.
No, it's just dealing with business that should not be out in the open space until everything's settled. Thank you.
Councillor Kiss. Councillor Wright, a reply.
I don't want to argue with myself tonight. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Pass. Thank you.